Just so you know, so it'll be on the...
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the PC Gamer Show. My name is Tom Marks, here with Will Chesney, video producer here at Future Studios, and Evan Lottie, our editor-in-chief, absentee from the future like Chris Livingston was last week on a monitor.
I'm trapped in the computer. Will I escape by the end of this show? Find out.
Yes, you got to stick around for the twist ending. If I reveal it's a twist, does that make it like... The twist is Evan's just behind the monitor, and we just got a webcam on him there.
Yep.
No, but we do have a great show for you, not including twist endings. We're going to be talking about TF2. Team Fortress 2 has announced kind of its coming competitive beta plans and a little bit about that and surrounding that and other games in that area. Talking about Devil Daggers, this indie shooter Doom style thing. I don't even know what to call it, but it's a lot of fun, and we've been enjoying it, and we want to talk about how cool it is. We'll also be doing a Catfantastic Quiz in the middle of the show, which I'm excited about. And then we'll be discussing our time with the Hitman beta, which, you know, there's some good and some bad to talk about there. And finally, we'll briefly be talking about the HTC Vive and Steam VR getting a price. It occurred to me just moments ago that, Will, every time we've had you on the show, you have been talking about VR, and you have always been saying Vive.
Yeah.
So I was like, yes, Will won't have to say Vive, and then I was like, crap, we're talking about the Vive.
The Vive.
Yeah, damn.
The Steam Vive.
It's not called that.
No, I mean, have you actually heard it spoken ever? Probably, actually, you probably
Yes.
both have. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the editor-in-chief of PC Gamer.
I hope so.
Say again?
In fact, I have, yes.
Yeah, and we'll, of course, be ending the show with your questions from Twitch chat. But first, let's talk about what we've been playing recently. So, Will, what have you been playing, man?
So, Wes actually reminded me to bring up this fact, but as always, I've been playing a ton of PlanetSide 2 because I
Right.
just can't leave that game, even if I try. Recently found a new stats website because there's a few different people who just tap into their info and make some great stat websites. And on this one, I discovered worldwide across all servers, I am number 9 for a certain sniper rifle.
Really?
Yeah, and
Wow.
number 3 on my server.
In what stat?
In number of kills. Number of kills, not accuracy. But the two reasons for that are, one, I'm an asshole, and two, nobody else likes that weapon. So it's for those who actually play the game, it's the Impetus sniper rifle on the NC, which is has counterparts in the other two factions. But
So you're the fastest slow kid, is what you're telling us right now?
I'm the best jerk.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Why do you? So
it's
wait,
fun.
why do you use that sniper rifle if
'Cause
nobody uses it?
So it's a close range sniper rifle, which means it has a 4x scope or less. You can even just use iron sights with it, which is kind of fun. Makes you feel like a World War I. I don't know. But it's a semi-automatic sniper rifle, so you have 10 shots and you can fire them really fast, which means, not as good at a distance, doesn't do as much damage, but if you're right in someone's face, if a heavy assault comes around a corner, you can just unload into them, and it's almost like having a shotgun, which is great. It's great. I highly recommend it.
Well,
Cool.
So, thank you.
Congratulations
Yeah.
on your triumph there.
And then also I've been playing Heroes of the Storm a ton. We've got some guys in the office who love Dota, too, and they think I'm a total dingbat for playing Heroes, but I love it. It's just very approachable and very fun. So
And it's shorter. The matches.
the matches are shorter, less stressful. I lose and still have fun sometimes.
What?
Not always, but sometimes.
What does that feel like?
Yeah, crazy talk.
It's kind of like being a sniper in PlanetSide 2.
Well, I'll jump in here because Evan, I know what you're gonna say, so I want to lead that into the next conversation. So I'll go next. I've had an overabundance of. Are you trying to open that iced tea bottle with a screwdriver?
These are really hard. But go on. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, yeah.
As Will just described, he has a long history of using the wrong tool for the job.
Yeah. It's not a shotgun.
You're gonna like slice your hand open on national television right here, and it's gonna be a travesty.
National gamer television.
Exactly.
Twitch loves being called national television. So.
Oh yeah. I mean,
they didn't pay us to say that, but
well, I've been playing a ton of strategy games. I've finally gotten into XCOM 2 in a big way, which I had kind of missed the boat on because, you know, I played it for preview. I've talked on the show before about how I played it, like, a lot, like, months ago, like, in December. And so I had my fill a little bit, and when it came out, I was like, okay. And I've been enjoying that a lot this last weekend. But the game I actually was really enjoying this weekend was Rise of the Tomb Raider. I had gotten like a review copy of it or something a while ago. It was in my Steam library mysteriously, and I had not ever played it. And finally on Saturday, I was just like, you know what, whatever, I'll try this. Hey, you got it open. Yeah. I'm proud. That's nice. Yeah. But I finally got like just sat down and tried it because I wanted something like linear and silly, and I don't know how I feel about it. Like, I'm really enjoying playing it, but I also think it might be really boring. Like, and James Davenport described it really well. He said it's like popcorn, and I think that's actually a really good description of the game. Is Rise of the Tomb Raider to me is like very, very shallow. It's very simple, very straightforward. The combat is incredibly easy for me. The bow is just OP, like crazy, crazy OP that you can just be stealth killing everybody, and like, why would you ever use the revolver that they gave me? Like, I don't know. But at the same time, like, it's very beautiful, and it's really, I'm really enjoying the experience, and it's really well made, and I like the upgrade system, and so, like...
Animations.
Say again?
Great facial animations.
Yeah, Lara's facial animations are just incredible. Like, so I'm really enjoying Rise of the Tomb Raider, but also, like, it's one of the first games in a while. I mean, this has, of course, happened to me before, but it's one of the first games in a while where I've, like, while I'm playing it, I'm like, I understand what's bad about this game, and I understand what I really dislike about this game, but I kind of just don't care. Like, I just am enjoying the ride of it right now. And I was surprised by that. I was surprised that I, like, had both of those reactions to it. Like, I was surprised I didn't enjoy it immediately off the bat, and I'm now surprised also that, like, it's keeping my attention, even though I can kind of see through it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then... like, I was also briefly want to mention what I said before of I'm playing right now Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition, XCOM 2, Duelist, and this isn't a PC game, but the new Fire Emblem. So I'm just like waist deep in turn-based strategy games constantly. And it's really messing with my head a little bit because in XCOM, you see like a 60 to 70% shot to hit, and then you're like, oh, I'm taking that shot. And then you go over to Fire Emblem, and it's like 60% chance to hit. Hell no, I'm not taking that. And it's like the stakes of these different strategy games are so different, and it's very interesting to me, and I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Is that what it's like to be polyamorous?
I wouldn't know.
Like I can't mix the same genre. I can play shooters of the same genre a little bit, but like I fully put down Counter-Strike to play Rainbow Six. I fully put down Darkest Dungeon to play XCOM. Like I need that some kind of like level of commitment in order to like feel attached to a game that way. And yeah, especially when they have similar mechanics like that, I don't know if I could hang.
Similar but not exact. Yeah. Throws you off for sure.
I don't have a big enough heart, I guess. I need to be in a relationship with games.
Grow up, be more mature, then you can be.
So, not enough of a millennial.
Well, you were saying too, because I knew you were playing some XCOM while also playing some Darkest Dungeon, right? And like that seems like an interesting two games to play at the same time because they're very similar but also very different.
It's a great way to get depressed if you like being depressed. Because they're both games designed to kill your dudes, and they do that very well. But yeah, I've been enjoying both. Is it my turn now? Am I talking?
Yeah, go ahead. What have you been playing lately?
Yeah, I've been playing Darkest Dungeon. I beat XCOM 2 last week. Beat it on Veteran Iron Man. It's my second attempt, and honestly, the game like really plateaued for me in difficulty, which I found disappointing. After I got certain technology, after I just got certain weapons, certain armor, like I lost 2 characters the whole campaign. And it just wasn't a challenge for me like halfway through on, which is a little bit frustrating. I still enjoyed it, and there were moments of intrigue and stuff like that. And I think, XCOM 2 is vastly better. Oh, this is the other thing that happened to me. I couldn't continue my save because of this bug that was present in the game up until late last week, where if like chrysalid cocoon hatched in your game, which by the way it had like never happened, like that was another bug. So in the final mission, like 5 turns away, I'm like, oh, my frame rate's like 15 FPS on a 980. I'm gonna save and quit and just see if like memory's leaking or something. So I do that, and the file gets corrupted, and I'm like, okay. So that's how it's gonna be. Luckily, like I did some research, and like a lot of people were experiencing this issue. For Access had acknowledged it, and in the next patch they did address it. So that was like very frustrating, but they did address it. So yeah, I had a pretty easy time. I'm not bragging or something. Like I definitely am looking forward to playing again on Commander and having like a more authentic XCOM experience, and like plugging some more mods in there in like 2 or 3 months time. So that'll be great. But yeah, Darkest Dungeon has gotten a lot of my attention lately. I think it's just a totally fabulous small game. I mean, the amount of mileage those guys get out of like what is like fairly simple but like beautiful 2D art in the work they do with their camera movement, I think is a total lesson to all independent developers in terms of the importance of just good technology. But it's a completely different mindset than XCOM 2 that I find really, really interesting. I mean, in both games, you have parties of characters, and you're taking them out on these missions, and they get wounded or they die, and you have to deal with the consequences, and you're building up this sort of like base metagame of upgrades and stuff like that. So there's symmetry there. But the preferred and like agreed upon strategy for Darkest Dungeon is like totally contrary to XCOM 2, and like working with that and sort of learning that has been like a really interesting part of the game, where my first couple Darkest Dungeon playthroughs are like attempts that I made. I like named all my guys, and I changed their color scheme and stuff like that, as like you customize them, and you like have these characters, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna like, this is gonna be my knight and my crusader and my occultist. I'm gonna like build these guys up over time like it's an RPG. So actually doing that is the worst thing you can do in this game, because you're supposed to treat your characters like disposable batteries and throw them the hell away as soon as they get broken. So your characters get diseased. They literally get syphilis and all this other stuff. They get ruined like quickly and suddenly and like without warning almost. And there's like very little you can do to protect you from this happening to really any of your characters. You can fix them, but it costs a lot of resources to do that. And basically, if the way the game works, you have like this steady supply of new recruits that are coming in for free. So you're getting free characters every week after every mission. So you're supposed to just like use characters to get resources, to get more resources, to upgrade stuff, to get more resources, and eventually you invest in like 6 or so characters and you make them great, and you like lock in certain like perks that they have. They have like Fallout style perks almost. They give them like good bonuses, but really you're supposed to just throw these guys in the garbage and press onward. And it's a really interesting like tug of war internally, because you're like, oh, I really like this character. And I remember that time he got me through this boss, but you're really just supposed to throw him away. And I think that's a really interesting shift in mindset, where in XCOM 2 you're basically a parent, and in Darkest Dungeon, in order to play well, arguably, you don't have to do this, but arguably you have to be like a ruthless, like terrible boss, basically, who just grinds people into the ground and says like, get out. Like we have this like high turnover organization, basically. So that's been good. throwing some guys in the garbage, catching some syphilis, and beating up lots of occult demons and skeletons in there.
So that's not a game that you want to like name characters after your loved ones in?
Oh, definitely not. It will only create mistakes and anger. I've named no one in my campaign. I've customized none of my characters.
Oh my god.
Maybe I eventually will. I'm like 30 hours into this campaign, and I don't care about any of them. It's great.
Wow.
Anyway, I've been playing the Overwatch beta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can talk about that.
So you got in last week, right? Beginning of last week.
Yep.
And I was really excited to see what you thought of it, because you're kind of like the FPS guru in the office, right? Like you have a ton of experience with Counter-Strike Go. You have been playing Rainbow Six Siege a ton. So I was really interested. I used to play a lot of TF2 as well. So I was really, really interested to hear what you kind of thought from that perspective.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing how different and similar it is from TF2 simultaneously. I mean, I think the comparison to MOBAs, as it is with a lot of games, is like one of the laziest comparisons you can make, and I find it to be kind of inaccurate. But it is interesting the way that, like, you know, in Overwatch and bringing over concepts like ultimates, the way it so fundamentally changes the experience of that game compared to TF2, and you sort of see how slow TF2 is, but how positive that slow pace is in a way. And TF2 is like not a slow game necessarily, but compared to Overwatch, it is. So I don't know. I'm really trying to like congeal my experience, and I'm hoping to play a lot more so that I can write something valuable on it and write something with like a concise point of view. But my collection of thoughts on Overwatch right now are really mixed. And honestly, I haven't raged so hard at a game since TF2 or like just in years, honestly. And that's saying something, because I'm like really competitive and I want to win. But even when I win in Overwatch, I just sort of like, I have moments where I'm just like, oh, like that was stupid. And I'm trying to wrap my head around why. And I took a crack at it. And I think like one of the big things that's frustrating me, and I totally admit, like, this is an amazingly polished game. It's beautiful. It's well animated. The character design is terrific. The level design is like interestingly contemporary and bright and fun. You know, the sound design is terrific. But I think at the top of the list for me right now is just the quantity of sort of emergency buttons and that like characters have access to. I find really frustrating. I mean, basically every ultimate in the game, or just a lot of ultimates in the game, are like just like one button insta kills. And not only that, like some of them kill multiple enemies, and I don't know, just having to account for that at any moment is a little bit maddening. Knowing that every character can just instantly kill you at certain moments. And like, yes, there are counters to this stuff, and like, yes, there's ways of avoiding it, and like, you know, managing distance. But you know, you look at Soldier 77?
76.
76.
Close.
One off, yeah.
He's in Overwatch too. So he has like a very, I think, easy to fire assault rifle. Like at range, you can just mouse one, you can hit people with it. You know, it gets a little bit inaccurate, but it's pretty easy to operate. His ultimate allows him to, you just hold down mouse one and you're instantly shooting anyone that you can just see on screen. It's aiming for you regardless of where you're aiming. I can be aiming like in the sky and be hitting somebody that's in front of me. You know, that's not satisfying to me as an FPS player. I understand, like, I don't know. Like, I guess like what I'm getting at is there's like a lot of just wild ideas thrown in there, and I think that's bold of Blizzard in a way to just try a lot of stuff. But what it amounts to is like I press a button and people die. I don't really have to use my positioning, timing, teamwork to get that stuff done. I just sort of have to aim in a general direction and kill people. I mean, McCree is the other big example. He's of course, like the cowboy character with the revolver. He already has a gun that's very powerful, is hit scan, and, you know, slow firing or whatever. His ultimate, he goes into this sort of like, you know, there's like a Western medley that plays, and he like reaches for his revolvers, and basically like within a couple seconds he fires at anybody with line of sight after he activates it after a couple seconds, and they die instantly, right? It's not like a lot of damage, or it's not like he stuns them or something. They just all die. And yes, it's like really kind of spectacular when it happens and you see it and you're like, oh man, that guy wiped out an entire team. But it, like, really all he did was he flanked, he got somewhere, he pressed Q, and then he like waited. I don't know.
And that goes into a little bit what you were saying about like the MOBA sensibility of the ultimate, because that sort of thing is standard fare in MOBAs, right? It is completely normal to have an ultimate ability that has a very long cooldown, and you press it and people die or get killed or take a ton of damage. But yeah, it's very, very different when put into a shooter setting.
Yeah.
And I think, it's weird because I'm not saying that Overwatch is not a high skill game. I actually think there's a lot of interesting high skill maneuvers, like certain characters more so than others. I think like the healing mechanics are really diverse and kind of weird in a good way. But like, rocket jumping, like some of the subtle stuff you can do with movement with a lot of the characters is really cool. But it's sort of like that bumps up against Blizzard's like, okay, well, we want to make this game. My thinking, I'm delving into their heads right now, which is like a little bit, speculative and bad. But it's like, okay, we want to make a really high skill competitive esports game, but we also want it to be like super accessible. We're going to be releasing it on console. We want everybody to play it because that's the style game. We make. Here's the Storm and Hearthstone is a great example of that recently. Although maybe not StarCraft 2, but. So they kind of add in these things where, there's no ammo, basically. Like, every character has infinite ammo, which, like, in itself is fine. It's not like every game needs an ammo mechanic, but, like, it's simultaneously sort of, like, dumbing down certain things so that people can get these, like, insta-kills or, like, certain characters have really easy, high-power weapons. Like, Widowmaker, for example, I think is, like, simultaneously... I like, total conflict about Widowmaker. She's, like, the sniper character, and she basically operates like TF2 Sniper. You hold down right mouse, you wait a couple seconds, your weapon charges up, and it's like at 100% power, and you can do a lot of damage to somebody in that shot. But like the rhythm you'll see for these Widowmakers is they'll take a very powerful shot, and they can immediately follow up with a weak shot and basically kill somebody instantly without them knowing. And like, yes, like that's how snipers work everywhere, but for some reason it really frustrates me. And I think what feeds in all this too is like, I feel like Overwatch's match length is really short. And again, this is another thing I have like mixed feelings about. And please forgive me if I'm talking too much about Overwatch, guys. It's like, it's sort of caught me by surprise, but like, so, I mean, matches are like 5 or 7 minutes, maybe 10 at the most. If they go really long, if like you take the maximum amount of time on objectives and whatnot. And I feel like with the 6-on-6 format, there's just so little time given as a resource to like tell your teammates to like hold on and like stop and like here's what we're going to do and here's our plan. And everybody, because the clock is so short, because you can't like, I think I have like 4 cracks at an objective, maybe 5 or 6 at the most before we just outright fail. Everyone's just kind of scrambling. It totally has not addressed that problem that exists in TF2 in a lot of games where, okay, well, I just spawned and why would I wait for my teammates? I need to get out there and like influence this and like help out and like get position and just move up there. And especially on attack, everybody's kind of like running in one by one and dying. And yeah, like that's a problem of teamwork, and that's a problem of maybe just my own unwillingness to like help a public match organize and act. But because it's 6-on-6 and not like 9-on-9 or 12v12 like a lot of TF2 servers, I think like your responsibility is so much greater as a player. So when everybody is just sort of like funneling out a spawn and running into a meat grinder and the clock is really short, you just sort of feel helpless. Like, oh man, like I can't corral these 5 random people in 3 minutes. You know what I mean? Like one of the beautiful things about a game like Rocket League, for example, is it's super short, but somehow, like I think especially through that like keyboard like voice command system where people are spamming WoW and awesome and stuff like that, like the first thing people do in that game is they take responsibility for their role, right? It's the first thing you do in a Rocket League match. You say, I've got it, or I'm on defense. Like if you're a seasoned player, that's what you're doing instantly. And Overwatch really doesn't address that sort of like in the character select screen. It says like, hey, you don't have enough support, or hey, you don't have enough tanks. And I think that's a great improvement, but it does not address that like, hey, you guys should try to do this or try to do that. And I don't know, it just led to a lot of like unsatisfying matches. Even when I'm winning, I'm sort of just like, that was frustrating and upsetting. And I think the other part of it is like just the shortness of the matches makes them feel a little frivolous too. I mean, you can totally argue that, well, if you lose, you lose quickly. And I think that's absolutely valid. But I don't know, it just doesn't feel like I'm having a story. I'm not experiencing a narrative throughout a match all of the time. Some of the time I am, but like unlike a memorable TF2 match where like a bottleneck is sort of standing in place for 5 or 10 minutes and everyone's looking at it and working on it, even though like that's attrition and that's like, arguably that's more of a meat grinder, like with sentry turrets and TF2 and the way they operate. I don't know. It feels more memorable and more spectacular when you bust through that wall together as a team and move on to the next point.
Well, let's transition that quite nicely into talking about competitive TF2 and ranked TF2, because I think what you just expressed about Overwatch might actually be solved, or maybe not solved, but at least helped by simply having a ranked system in Overwatch, which they say they're going to bring into the beta. But like a lot of that frustration to me of like nobody knowing their role, or like a sniper being incredibly oppressive, that seems like once you have coordination and once you're like in a higher level of play where you're with people who are also focusing on that stuff, that might get less frustrating.
Yeah.
And that's what's coming to TF2. That's exactly what TF2 is getting. TF2 is getting ranked play. It's getting a competitive beta is coming up soon. They announced this a while ago, but they finally said we're going to start letting people into the beta slowly. And it's just basically ranked. It's, I believe, 6v6 is the way that TF2 is done competitively. And now that Overwatch exists, I'm interested to see what the response to this is going to be, both from the TF2 community and people who don't have, or who don't play TF2 but like shooters. It might be in this weird way, just in the time we've been talking about Overwatch, I've seen a lot of people in the chat being like, oh, I'm never going to get into the beta. I'm interested to see if the people who are never going to get into think they're never going to get into the Overwatch beta are going to say, oh, I'm just going to, TF2's free to play. I'm going to go play that now that it has a ranked mode. I mean, do you think, and this goes for either of you, do you think that the addition of a competitive mode or a ranked mode might attract a new fan base, or maybe an old withering fan base back to TF2?
I mean, I think so. Part of the problem with that, and what Evan's saying about Overwatch, is when you're just thrown sort of into these random groups, and even if you're playing with friends but you're playing against random people, you're missing out on that level of interaction that is possible in both of those games. And so I think definitely adding that mode in TF2 is going to be huge. I think it's going to be huge. I think people are going to be very, very excited about that.
Absolutely.
I might get into it too.
Yeah, I mean, like the worst part of public TF2 is just like that 2-fort server, that's like set on a 60-minute clock and 10 people are sniping. Like that is like that's enjoyable like once a year thing, but I feel like that's the worst part of TF2, just stumbling into a server like that and you're like, oh god. Competitive TF2 I think will be a big deal. I mean, look at how it's affected Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is the most played shooter in the world, and it's one of the most popular games in the world. And yes, like it's a game that thrives on competition. It's a natural fit, that kind of skill-based matchmaking. But this is absolutely a response to how well it's done in Counter-Strike. I mean, Valve has forever sort of seen pieces of its games, just like the crate system in CSGO, and let them influence each other, because they already have like parts of these systems that they can repurpose, or at least knowledge that they can repurpose. So I think it's going to be a big deal. I mean, the way competitive TF2 works is, it's 6-on-6. And basically, it's played with like certain class limitations, like you can only have 2 pros at a time. So it sort of structures things a little bit more in that way. And of course, the clock is a little more concise. But I think it's going to be a great deal. I think it's going to come down to a lot of things, like how aggressively is Valve willing to promote it. They may just sort of let the community kind of run away with it. They may be empowering the community in some way, which I think is definitely necessary. So, like the timing is really important, because if they're doing this after Overwatch launched, I think it would be much less likely to be successful, and that's much less likely to catch on. But as it stands, I think it's going to be super exciting. You're going to have a lot of those old timers like me coming back in with their buddies. Like that's the game I kind of like grew up in like this era, with like, we had a TF2 server that just, I show up and every night everybody knew each other, and you knew what people were likely to play and where they were likely to play, and just having that kind of relationship with people is super special. And I think you'll see a lot of folks just wanting to get back in touch with that.
And it's going to be interesting. I'm definitely going to try it, and I hope that we kind of get a little team together to just try it out within the office, because basically all of my memories of TF2, and these are all good memories, right? But all of my experience and memories with TF2 was just a clusterfuck. And it's like an incredibly enjoyable clusterfuck, but it's like still just madness on a public server with, 20 to 30 people like running around like crazy, right? Like, and that's fun. That's really, really fun. But restricting it, even just the simple change of restricting it to 6v6, I think is going to have such implications on the pace of a game and the attitude of a game that I'm interested in seeing that, and I'm interested in trying that, and I can't wait till the beta that they're going to start soon opens up to the point that I can just jump in. But it's interesting to me too that Valve is slowly turning TF2 into CS:GO, and I don't mean that from a gameplay aspect, but they added gun skins, right, in a patch relatively recently. Now they're adding a competitive mode to the game, and we'll see what follows. But I wouldn't be surprised if Valve is trying to replicate the success that CS:GO has had in another one of its franchises.
Yeah, they're just cross-pollinating. I think it's something they do between Dota and even stuff like Portal. I mean, just stuff like, it's just something that Valve has done throughout its history. I mean, the way they launched, their filmmaker, excuse me, through TF2, and like use that to sort of prop up another service. It's just something they've always done. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't think like an esports league is going to spring up overnight and it's going to be the next sensation or anything. But I think this is already one of the top 5 games on Steam consistently. It's been free for several years now.
Do you remember? Do either of you guys remember? I got TF2 through the Orange Box, way back in the day,
yeah.
And when they first went free to play, do you remember there were a bunch of community servers that modded themselves to restrict it so that only people who had purchased a copy of the game could get into the server?
Wow, segregation.
Yeah, it was like a big controversial topic for a little bit, but
only the pure TF2 players are welcome here.
And now that's completely gone, right?
Yeah.
Like now no one cares. Or maybe there's still like
America's rich racial history. It's mirroring that, yes.
Oh man. I would be interested to find out if there's like a couple bastions of servers out there that don't let any free-to-play people.
Was that an Overwatch joke?
Oh,
Bastion?
come on.
Well,
Unintentional puns.
One last thing I don't like about Overwatch.
Okay, let's hear it.
I'm pretty sure you can disable them, and so my bad. But the tips that come up after you die, so like immediately when you respawn, there's like a little like text block that's like, are the most like condescending things, and it's just like, you're running around a corner and you just get sniped or something, or a turret hits you because they have infinite range or whatever. And it's like, hey, it's like, don't run in open areas when there's a sniper on the other team, or like, you should engage this tank character at long range because they have a grapple attack that'll pull you closer to them and shoot you in the face like it just happened to you. It's like, wow, thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Got it. Okay, cool.
I really want one of those tooltips to just be like, shoot the other players. Don't get shot.
I mean, a few of them do reveal like things that aren't super obvious, but like, it's just sort of like rubbing in your face. I don't know.
Yeah.
I need to manage my blood pressure. That's kind of what's coming through here.
I think with more time, that game's going to make more sense. I think as more people get better at knowing about roles, knowing about like you actually have to work as a team, you actually have to change character and counter. Like, okay, everybody can't play Tracer. You gotta like, I don't know. I've had some good success.
And here's a good comparison to kind of unite our two topics together. I mean, what Overwatch is like now, it's like jumping into TF2 4 years after launch, right? When it's like the spy has these kind of weird mechanics now, and the demo man can hold a sword and charge at you, and it's like that, like maybe a little bit more actually, but like it's sort of like, oh, okay, the sniper with the bow can launch a like ghost dragon through any wall that does damage if I stand in that, and it just like, you know, you can basically poke through any wall, or like the sniper has a wall hack that she can activate. Okay, so like, all right, I'll like take that into account now, and
Right.
I think it takes like 15, 20 hours to like really absorb all that fully on every map and how it affects every situation. So immediately it's a little bit disorienting.
Well, and that's the comparison to MOBAs. You know, I mean, where a game like Counter-Strike gains value from perfecting these micro moments, you know, and the skill. A game like Dota 2 or League, you know, or Heroes, they're gaining value by they just have this vast pantheon of characters, and so, you know, your average player might not even know all the characters. You know, I don't know all the Dota 2 character names even. I know all the hero character names, but, you know, and so I think Overwatch is going for that and not going for the CS:GO thing. I mean, they're trying to add complexity and a skill cap based on how well you know everything, you know, and that's, like you said, that's going to take 15, 20 hours to get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm hitting tab, I'm seeing who's on the other team. Okay, they have Hanzo, who's the guy who can do the dragon arrow. He's been out for 60 seconds. I have to start watching out, you know, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And yeah, I can see that being frustrating.
Yeah, that's just a skill that you pick up with any game too. This is completely off topic, but I just want to bring it up real quick.
Yeah.
I had a moment the other day where I was playing a game with a controller with some friends who, you know, don't play games, right? Like, and they had it was a very simple game, like a walking around game. I think it was actually Dr. Langaskov, the Tiger, and the Terribly Cursed Emerald, right? Like the crows, basically like a Stanley Parable style game.
Everything you just said was just, except for Stanley Parable, everything you said went.
Basically a Stanley Parable style game. But they were having trouble just with the movement of the twin stick, like looking around in a 3D space, because they hadn't grown up with that. And it made me realize the other day how ingrained just kind of control schemes are in our DNA. I mentioned this is completely off topic, but like, because I was playing Overwatch, and, you know, this goes with any shooter or any game really, where I was holding shift. I was playing Mercy. I was holding left click to heal somebody while I was holding shift to fly to them, while I was holding space to hover, and I was holding my push to talk button to talk to the teammates, and I was using 2 fingers to do WASD to move around in that space. And I had this moment where I was like, this just comes naturally to somebody who's used a mouse and keyboard for like a long time. Like, it wasn't an overly complex thing for a game.
No.
And
Tom, can you hold up your hands? How many fingers do you have?
Like,
okay,
like 11, like normal.
You have like weird fish hands, or you have like 12 or 18. Okay.
Not that I know of. But let's move on to another game, another shooter that's in a similar sense, I suppose, both complex and simple at the same time. Of Devil Daggers.
Yes, I'm gonna cosplay Devil Daggers while we do it.
Yeah.
Just pointing your hand out. Devil Daggers. Well, so Evan, you've been, I think, probably played the most of the three of us. So give me a rundown on what Devil Daggers is.
Devil Daggers is okay. Have you guys read any Goosebumps books?
Not in a long time.
Yeah, years.
So Devil Daggers is that game in the Goosebumps books where like the kids play it and it's like a secretly corruptive thing where like they have to play it, they have to like run home from school and like play more, but like secretly it's like sucking their soul away. Like it's that game basically. No, it's it's a retro, you know, first person time attack FPS basically, where it's sort of like wave-based survival where these like skulls and other kind of like creepy like Lovecraftian almost enemies are spawning on like a flat plane of space with like no background, no skybox, no like level design or obstacles or anything, and you just have to survive them as long as you possibly can, but usually that's like 60 seconds. I think somebody just broke the 500-second mark today or yesterday from Finland, so that's the top right now, 500 seconds in this game surviving. And
we can pull up a video right now for those of you not listening on the podcast of just kind of what the game looks like, because it's very almost Doom-like graphics, right? It's yeah, I compare it to Quake. I mean, it's super desaturated, like brown colors, but
you're launching these, like, everything's like really nicely aliased and pixelated, low res textures. But what really stands out about Devil Daggers is the sound design. There's no music. There's no music at all. And really, you should be, if you're playing this, it's $5 on Steam. It's a great blind buy. You should be using the sound design to help you figure out if stuff's behind you, because it's so easy for like swarms of these like floating skulls and all the other enemies to just sneak up behind you without noticing, because it's a super frantic experience. But yeah, to describe it like even more real quick, you're in first person. Your weapon is like your hand. You seem to be some kind of like sorcerer or magician. You're launching these like daggers, or like little like red lines basically out of your hand, in either like sort of like an SMG style or a shotgun style, depending on how you're clicking. And you're trying to pick up as many of these like red gems that some of the enemies have to boost your power, and that you're going to be launching like a higher volume of that shot. So yeah, it's just like crazy circle strafing, backpedaling style of gameplay, like a Doom or like Quake. There's a little bit of bunny hopping in there, so it has that kind of feel around movement, but it's not so. But it also evokes stuff like, I don't know, even like Shadow of the Colossus or Stalker or something, in the way that like it just explains nothing. There are no tutorials, no tips, no like anything. You have to like dig into the menu to figure out like what the buttons do and everything.
And sorry that video was a little laggy. That was just a problem with our connection, not the video itself. The game itself runs great.
Yeah, it's I'm playing on 144 hertz monitor as God intended. But it's super, super fun to just challenge yourself. I mean, the game really, like, it surfaces your Steam friend list. And what's great is it sort of stores, interpolated data, like a source engine demo or something, where as soon as you die, you see a leaderboard of your friends and all the top players in the world, and you can instantly watch their replay and see how they got so far. So that's sort of like the form of tutorial that it gives you, which I think is super clever. It just integrates that into the scoring system. I find it like a super moody and disturbing game to play. I also just love watching the high-level replays. We posted one on the site at the start of this week, last week, excuse me. And it's one of the trippiest things I've seen in a game. It's an absolute like mind-bending, like how did somebody do this? I talked with a guy who's one of the best players in the world. I think he's number 2 right now that somebody superseded him, and he's played like 150 hours, and it's just like weirdly inspiring to see somebody like manage so many like just flowing like random threats. It's a crazy impressive feat of motor skills.
Well, and that's
how much have you guys played?
I played for about 2 hours last night. I loved it. Part of what I loved about it is you playing it over and over again, and it's basically the same thing each time. You get these certain enemies, they start appearing more frequently, they get harder and harder. And like you said, there's no tutorial. You're just thrown in, and suddenly I don't know. It's just been so long since I've played a game where it was just me, and I just had to learn the game. Like, I had to learn the systems. And that's what's so attractive of it to me. Like, I'm learning how these skulls maneuver. Like, what are their patterns? So there's certain skulls without horns, and there are ones with horns, who are sort of like these leader skulls that are going to come at you from different angles. So got to take care of those. And then, there's something really satisfying about each time just getting a little bit better. Like, okay, I survived like 5 seconds longer. I moved up 150 spots on the leaderboard, which is the other great thing. So you die and instantly there's the leaderboard. I remember back in the day playing Flash games with leaderboards, and it was always kind of like wonky, but this isn't that, So you die, leaderboard, there's a retry button right there. You could be playing your next life within, half a second, which is really cool. It's very fun. Very satisfying to see yourself improve compared to other people.
It's almost like a modern arcade game in a weird way, because it is only $5, right, on Steam. And so and there is only the one level and the one mode and then the leaderboard. And so it's this bite-sized game where you just play as long as you can survive and as long as you can last and as good as you are, and you get a high score, and that high score goes out to the world. And I really like that because you could almost put it in an arcade cabinet and it would be right at home, right?
But for real, it is a cursed arcade cabinet. Because here's the other amazing aspect of this game. I think it's just so brilliant. I mean, this is one of the best things to happen this year, as far as I'm concerned. It's deeply mysterious. So there's one achievement for the game. I don't know how you get it, what it does.
I mean, on Steam, there's like one Steam achievement.
There's one Steam achievement. Yeah. It's just a picture of a dagger. I'm not sure. It doesn't explain itself, just like the rest of the game does not explain itself. But right now, I haven't watched the most recent record-breaking replay, which I think is like 30 or 40 seconds longer than the previous one at the most. What happens when you get to the end of Devil Daggers? No one knows.
Is there an end?
No one's done that. We don't know. Yeah. And like, what new enemies like start to propagate, or like, is there an end? Like,
yeah, we don't know that it's endless gameplay.
Like the game is literally constructed this like occult, like eldritch frontier that we need to explore through dying and like frustration and like difficulty.
The Civ in Twitch chat says the only achievement is called Devil Dagger, all caps, and it literally has no description.
Yeah.
There you go.
Rad.
Yeah. So, and like when you first start a new game, you're sort of in this like weird level select area, it feels like, where you walk up to like a floating dagger and then you enter that stage, which makes it seem like in the future there might be more levels or something, maybe. But right now it's an open question, which I think is just like super satisfying. It's definitely a case for like something we've talked about before, which is there's a special reason sometimes to play a game at launch or play a game in a certain period where everybody's kind of talking about it and experiencing the same thing and wondering the same stuff, where like there are unknowns, and I think that's super satisfying in this case.
James Davenport in the chat, our own editor.
I know that guy.
Yeah, we know that guy. Says there's supposedly 13 different enemies, and we've seen about half total. So,
and by we've seen, we mean in the top one or two players.
Yeah.
In their replays, we've seen those.
So theoretically, there could be, you've only seen half the game, right? But also, it only came out this week, right?
Yeah. And it's been on Greenlight before that.
So it's gonna unravel. The mystery will slowly unravel, which is exciting because so often things just get data mined and the answer so quickly. But this is cool that it's like this genuinely skill-based learning, right?
And you can see where you stack up against every single other person that's playing it. I mean, I don't think you can turn that off. I don't think you can turn off like adding your score to the high score list. Which is super cool.
Yeah.
So I was trying to describe this game to my lovely girlfriend last night, and she kept saying, "What is it called? Deviled eggers? Like people who eat deviled eggs? Like devil daggers?"
That sounds like a VR game, actually.
Yeah, it sounds great.
It's like the Flash parody. Yeah.
Yeah, deviled eggers.
What you should do is just be like, "Hey, babe, you ever daggered with the devil in the pale moonlight?"
That actually is what I said. It was great. And then I went back to the game.
Nice.
So,
well, the first time I played Devil Daggers, I was running away from a skull, and I walked off the edge of the map, and I, God damn it. So.
Which you don't even know that you could do that.
Yeah. No, I found out quick.
Yeah.
Though.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's move right along to happier things, and let's move to our Catfantastic for this week. So
jeez.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. Those of you just joining us or new to the show, our Catfantastic is our semi-weekly. It's not really weekly anymore, but we do a quiz occasionally where it's PC gaming themed. This week, Evan Lottie actually put together the quiz for the site, and the quiz is guess which game this opening line comes from. So you gathered a ton of the opening first lines of a game, and we have to figure out what game that line was from. And you guys at home can play along as well. We also have, we're only going to be doing about like half dozen or so of these questions, and we have a full 20 on the site. So if you are interested in seeing more, just go to pcgamer.com/quiz, and you'll find it there. But Evan, what do you got for us? This is exciting. This is the first Catfantastic I'm not the curator for.
The Trebek.
Yeah, I'm not the Trebek this time.
Oh, how the tables have turned, Tom.
Yeah.
Enjoy. I'll start off, and I will give one modest hint. Like, these are not super obscure games. I'm not picking Barbie Pony Adventures 4.
That's the only one I would get.
Well,
yeah.
You're going to have trouble with this one. So, a very easy question would be, for example, and these are, of course, like the first lines of dialogue or text to appear on the screen or be said in a game. So a very easy one would be, good morning, and welcome to the Black Mesa Transit System.
Okay. Well, so should we... I think I know that answer. But should we let the chat have a sec to kind of...
Yeah, we can give you guys a little bit of sec to think about it. That one's easy, though, yeah.
I wrote these as multiple choice. I guess I'll call out the possible answers.
Yeah.
Maybe give it to us without the multiple choice first.
Okay. And let us sweat, and then you can give us the choices, yeah.
Great.
But that one is easy. That one...
You're probably not sweating.
It's already been called out in the chat. It's Half-Life.
Yeah.
The original.
Well done. All right, cool. That's like the only easy one. Buckle up. Okay. How about... Okay, slightly easier, but not hard, but not outright hard. They told me, son, you're special. You were born to do great things.
I know this one.
Of course you know this one.
But I knew this one because I think I did this one.
Because you wrote the question?
No.
I know it's not Hearthstone.
So it's either Fallout New Vegas, BioShock, Octodad, or Pillars of Eternity.
Okay, I've got it down to 2.
Oh, yeah? What are your 2?
I'm cutting out Octodad, and I can't remember what the other one I'm cutting out, but it's either... I'm going to say it's either... I'm cutting out BioShock. I don't think it's BioShock.
Okay. I love the idea that it would be Octodad.
Yeah.
Like this octopus father, like, looking down at his son, like, you're born to do great things.
Now, would that be the titular Octodad, or would that be the Octodad's dad?
I don't know. That's the
octopus?
question,
Yeah.
isn't it? But what do you say? What do you say? Give me your answer, because I know the answer.
So, I mean, I'm going to say Fallout. I'm going to say it's Fallout.
There were a lot of guesses of Fallout 3 in the chat, too, but it is actually...
It's BioShock.
Yep.
It's BioShock? No way.
It's like his only line for a long time in that game. He's sitting on the plane looking at the picture, and that's like the only line that the main character says for a long, long time.
What great things is he going to... He's going to go get, washed up and... find this underwater city and survive.
That's a pretty good
He just
thing.
lived. I mean,
that's pretty
great,
man.
He doesn't save the world or anything, does he?
It is. I mean, I do think it's an easy one to forget. It's one of the best openings ever, I think, in a game.
Yeah, it's solid.
And the line doesn't really do it justice necessarily. It's just overshadowed by how spectacular that opening is. But yeah, when you're on the plane, it's sort of like an internal monologue. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah. What you got next?
How about... Okay, this one's hard. Your appointment to FEMA should be finalized within the week. I've already discussed the matter with the senator.
What a good one. That could be so many things.
Your appointment to FEMA should be finalized within the week. I've already discussed the matter with the senator. And this is someone saying this line to the main character.
So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, because you said the word senator, it's Knights of the Old Republic.
Ah, that's bold.
So FEMA must be Space FEMA.
Exactly,
Space
Space FEMA.
That's good.
Federation, I don't know.
So the chat's already gotten it, and this was one you posted in Hip Chat as well. So,
Right.
So everybody has spoilers.
So what are the options? Give us the options first.
Prison Architect. I put in Helicopter 2015 Natural Disasters, Fear, or Deus Ex.
Any choices there?
Is it Deus Ex? No.
It is.
Yeah.
It is Deus Ex.
Well done.
Yes.
Align said
I have
that
played. It's been
AC
so long. It has been so long.
Flaming Yeti said Rocket League. That would be interesting.
All right, here is another.
Yes.
Stand up. There you go. You were dreaming. What's your name?
Is that
Oh man.
Link to the Past? Wait, that's not PC.
What?
Stand up. There you go.
Oh, you even said this one, and I don't remember which one it was.
Stand up.
You were dreaming. What's your name? It's almost as if they're trying to get you to make a character.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. So we, the funny thing is, this one was actually being discussed in the chat earlier. So there you go.
I know
So-
it's not Skyrim.
It is an Elder Scrolls game, though. But
Yes,
which-
it is.
But which one?
So now you have 4 to choose from.
I like how it's become me
Well,
answering all these
I know
because you have the
because
chat that you
keeps
can
spoiling
see.
it, man.
Yeah. You have to not look at the chat.
Okay,
for a
okay.
second.
I'll close the computer for now.
I think not Skyrim is a pretty good answer.
Okay.
I mean, I'm gonna pick a Daggerfall. No, Morrowind.
Hey!
Well, Oblivion was my next guess. If that
There
was
we go.
Very good. All right, next
Very good.
question, next quote. Putting the faded photo in my pocket, I spotted the cave's entrance and vowed to return victorious.
Ooh. Putting the
Put
faded photo?
in my
Faded or fated?
Faded.
Faded.
Okay.
That is an important distinction.
Yeah.
I spotted the cave's entrance and vowed to return victorious.
Oh, man. See, this to me says like adventure game or like action adventure game.
Someone's got to have a photo.
I'm just going to guess genre because I'm not going to get the actual game, right?
Well, I'll give you some options now, all right?
Okay,
'Cause
okay.
Wait, before you do, I'm gonna put my my finger pre-list on Uncharted, but now I want to hear.
Uncharted
List.
isn't for PC, man.
Is it not at all?
No.
I've never played it. I just assumed
Uncharted
it was.
is like the flagship game of Sony.
I pay so
It was like
little
the
attention.
launch game for PS3.
I play. I pay so little attention to Sony and Xbox,
nice
their
recovery.
PlayStation and Xbox, that I don't even know.
Good cover.
I just
Good
assumed.
cover.
Assumed you could get your Nathan.
So
Drake
what are our
on.
options?
So it's either Rise of the Tomb Raider, which, Tom, you were playing recently,
I was.
Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time, Cave Story, or Spelunky.
Pretty sure it's not Cave Story because I don't remember a photo from that.
Putting the faded photo in my pocket, I spotted the cave's entrance and vowed to return victorious.
No, but see, that sounds like it could be an action.
If it's Rise of the
type
Tomb
of-
Raider, I'm embarrassed. I'm gonna go Spelunky. That's my guess.
Can we just talk about how much fun Cave Story was?
No, we
Way
can't.
back?
You got to make a choice.
I have no idea. So whenever I boot up a game for the first time on Steam, I go and make some tea.
This is
So
some brilliant stalling.
I miss the first 5 minutes of every game. So I figure it's just going to be I have no idea. Does the chat know?
It's Spelunky.
Yeah,
Nice.
chat got a lot of the chat
Nice.
got it.
Well done. All right, one or
Also a
two-
very good game.
a couple more here.
Yeah, let's do a couple more.
Perhaps you've seen it, maybe in a dream, a murky, forgotten land.
Well, that sounds like we just got a Murloc reference there. So it's got to be Blizzard.
Murky?
Yeah, that's either WoW or Heroes. No, I don't know.
Vanishing of Ethan Carter. Final answer.
Damn.
That was wrong.
Perhaps you've seen it, maybe in a dream, a murky, forgotten land.
That sounds like an H.P. Lovecraft.
It is either Myst, Dark Souls 2, Baldur's Gate 2, or Planescape Torment.
Okay.
Ooh.
I got this one. I know this one. Give us the choices one more time.
Myst, Dark Souls 2, Baldur's Gate 2, or Planescape Torment.
Okay, I think I'm gonna go Dark Souls.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
I was going to go Planescape or Myst, but I'm pretty sure it's not Myst.
I'm
I
gonna
haven't
go Dark
played
Souls because I
Planescape, but-
recognize the quote, and it is the only game on that list. I know it's not Myst, and it's the only
Yeah.
game on that list that I have played besides Myst. So That's my guess.
What's chat say?
What's chat say? What's you say? We've got
I said Planescape, even though I haven't played it.
Far Cry Primal. James says Dark Souls 2, very emphatically. Scruffy says Pillars. Lord Hunter says League of Legends. That's, yeah. Panzerg says Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners. Basically, no one has any idea here.
It's Dark Souls 2.
There it is. Dark Souls 2. Let's go finale. What's the worst? What's the hardest one you got for us?
Oh
here?
my God, you won't. Okay.
Give us the hardest one. I'm gonna close the computer down again.
Okay, this one's pretty hard.
Okay. Let's hear it.
The enemy has struck at the heart of our empire.
Ooh.
It's super vague. Could be. So you're probably going to want some choices, which I'll give to you now.
Knights of the Old Republic.
It sounds Star Wars-ish, doesn't it?
Yeah, Uncharted.
The enemy struck at the heart of our empire.
Okay.
The Witcher 3, Crusader Kings 2, Wing Commander 3, Heart of the Tiger,
Whoa.
Dragon Age Origins.
Oh, damn it.
The enemy has struck at the heart of our empire.
Damn it.
I feel like Witcher 3 isn't Empire level.
I'm gonna go with you too, and I'm gonna eliminate Witcher 3.
Yeah.
So we've got Dragon Age 2, Wing Commander 3, and what was the other one?
Crusader Kings 2.
Crusader Kings 2.
Dragon Age Origins.
Okay, sorry. Dragon Age Origins. I'm gonna eliminate Crusader Kings 2.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I don't.
I'm gonna go Wing Commander.
But is there like a cinematic for Crusader Kings? Like, put that in the back of your head. Yeah.
Well, you can't mess with me. Calm down, Regis. This isn't Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Is that your final answer?
Final answer.
Are you sure?
It is in fact Wing Commander 3.
Hey!
Nice.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a hint in there because he says heart, and the subtitle is Heart of the Tiger.
Oh.
If you play that game on CD-ROM, it's a Kilrathi, which is like basically a giant cat person. It's like really goofy costuming, saying this, and like they've captured these POWs, and they're these human POWs, and it's a really terrific FMV cutscene. You should just go look it up on YouTube right now. Wing Commander 3 opening. But yeah,
Nice.
There's more of this stuff on our site.
Yeah.
PCGamer.com/quiz. We're going to be doing more of these quiz things because, I don't know, they're pretty fun. Just a little test of trivia, and it's like light stuff to complement all the big, serious, hard-hitting news we do on PC Gamer every day. So
Nice.
Yeah, and hopefully that means some more Catfantastics as well. If we can translate more of these quizzes into video format.
And hopefully they won't have, the detrimental effect of being in the first 5 minutes of a game where I'm,
Where
doing
you're
my thing.
away.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll do the next quiz on PlanetSide 2 sniper rifles.
Yeah.
and
I can name
who's
every single one.
ninth ranked for each one in the world.
I just have to say also for Uncharted, again, have never played it, and I'm guessing a lot of people in the audience have also not played it if they're PC gamers. But a friend of mine who very well might be in the chat found a YouTube channel where this guy took all of the cutscenes and made it just into like a 2-hour movie. I think it was Uncharted 2. So if you don't want to go buy a PlayStation, but you do want to see what people are talking about, you can watch the movie of Uncharted.
okay.
Just
On
the
your
cutscenes.
PC. Yeah.
I think you should put down the shovel, stop digging the hole that you are standing in, and we should go on to the next topic.
Hitman.
Yeah, let's talk about Hitman, because I do really want to talk about Hitman, because it's kind of weird, man. It's not as hitty as I thought it was gonna be. We got a chance to play some of the Hitman beta. So I just want to hear, I guess, first of all, impressions of what you guys have seen or played. I thought it was personally very cool, very like it was fun to a certain extent. It felt closer to the Blood Money era Hitman, but it still kind of felt a little shallow, and maybe it was supposed to feel that way in what is basically the tutorial mission of a beta for a bigger game, right? So, like, that criticism might not hold up in the full game, but it felt very, like it was fun. Like, that was kind of the way I came away from it.
Yeah, I've seen very little of it, but I think like one of the big takeaways we were saying in chat yesterday that it's just kind of inexcusable in 2016 to have a third-person action game where the character is like anything less than easy and comfortable to control. I think it's, especially after seeing the leap that Metal Gear Solid made and how playable that game was on mouse and keyboard. It's a big sin, especially in a game where like movement has to be really precise and deliberate. And yeah, there's a cover system, and that's kind of awkward with mouse and keyboard sometimes. But they really need to nail that. And this is a game that's coming out of beta. You know, it was a very short beta in just a couple weeks. So I don't know. Then again, like I think the episodic sort of format that they're going for with this game is like absolutely genius. I think it's one of the best things they could have done with the franchise. The notion of like you can only get one crack at certain missions and like they're sort of time sensitive, I think is a really ingenious way of getting players to come back into the game rather than just like, well, the game is 12 missions and you do them and then you're done and you know maybe we'll release some more later. I just think that kind of like that steady drip of like a TV episode, honestly, that you kind of keep coming back to is really, really smart and a great format for this game.
Yeah, there's a lot of trepidation to me of like the idea of buying half the game now and then half the game later. But the thing to me is like that whole system, honestly, I think it did more damage just to the marketing of the game was so confusing because of it, right? Like I have no idea, like because now what they're saying is if you buy the base game or you buy the first version, you get 3 sandbox levels and 6 story missions, which sounds like so little game. And then you're like, oh, but more's coming. So it makes it sound like that's like nothing there. But really, like you said, there's all these contract kills and weekly things to do. And there is, I imagine, going to be a lot in the base game. But it just makes it not sound that way, just from the nature of how they announced it and how it's formatted. But one of the things that I thought was really like generally across the board, and this is what I saw a lot of people saying, is the most shocking thing about the beta to me was the AI and kind of how stupid it was in some spots, right? It was just imbecilic in some spots. And I want to pull up a video of Wes's run, where at one point he goes into this garage. He's dressed as a mechanic, and he walks up to these 3 other mechanics, which people who are now watching can see. And first of all, when you get like when people are suspicious of you, or if you're like in a place trespassing, like just these big white letters show up on your screen to say suspicious, which I think is kind of odd. But they get suspicious of him and they walk up to him and they just kind of like stand there staring at him until finally he's detected. And when they finally detect him, he just like knocks them out in front of each other and like lets them down easily, like holds their head and eases them to the ground stealthily as the others are watching. And then this other guy wanders in as he's dragging the body away. This other guy wanders in and sees him and just goes, you need a hand with that? And then like he just knocks that guy out too. And it's like, what is going on? Like the AI is just doesn't know how to properly respond to like people getting beat up in front of them.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've never been in that situation where I've walked into a garage and beat up a bunch of people, so maybe that's how people really respond in real life. They just kind of freeze and freak out. Maybe it's super realistic. They did a bunch of testing.
Man, I don't like that UI at all with text. Like,
no, yeah.
I'm sure they put a lot of thought into it because it's a really important part of the game, but like at first brush, it just seems like a really clumsy way of telling you what state these characters are in or what state the game's in.
Yeah, it seems really, really clumsy. Like, that's a good word for it. It looks like they tried to make the UI different, and they were like, this isn't clear enough. Let's just slap some words on in front of it.
Yeah. It seems like a debug mode or something. I don't know. I don't want to be too critical. Like, we don't want to judge a game by a single video, obviously.
No, of course not.
Yeah, I mean, bigger trend. I think we're going to see more games doing this. I mean, Street Fighter is sort of some would say bad example of, you know, we're going to release this like good skeleton, but it's a skeleton, and we're going to fill in the organs over time. I mean, early access, like this stuff is only going to become more ubiquitous now that consoles have the hard drive space and the kind of infrastructure to support like updating and sort of beta launching and testing and stuff like that. So it's only going to become more common, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. A key thing to me about this is how Ubisoft responds to this criticism, right? Because it's almost too late for them to make any sweeping changes, at least for the game's launch date, because the game launches 2 weeks from Friday, right? So anything major that people had problems with in this game is gonna be in the base game. It's safe to say, at least. Because 2 weeks just isn't enough to make sweeping changes to a game like this. But what's really going to put it to the test is, and I said Ubisoft, didn't I?
Yeah.
Excuse me. I didn't mean to say Ubisoft. IO. IO is going to be, like, how they respond to that criticism is going to be really, really important, because if the base game comes out and they say, man, people really don't like this UI, so we've added this different UI that you can switch on or off, that I'm on board for that, you know. But if they continue to add content to the game and say, hey, we're doing these weekly events where we keep this game alive, but refuse to change any of the criticisms that people have with it, that's a huge mistake in my opinion. Obviously, we've yet to see if they do that, if, you know, either way. But I enjoyed it, but I'm nervous about the full experience after having played this bite, basically.
Legit?
You didn't get your hands on it, did you?
I didn't get to, no.
Okay.
So I've just seen videos and, you know, all that jazz. But like you guys are saying, I'm not crazy about the UI. You'd like to think that a game released at this point would be capable of showing those kind of things just through the character behaviors.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be great, you know, if, you know, facial expressions, or, you know, they kind of hunch up, and the kind of things that, as a player, the more you play, you kind of learn those signs. Like, oh God, this guy's not, but not like, you know, the whole screen, you know, lights up or something if you're discovered, or you get a big word that says suspicious or something like that. Just seems a little easy.
Where the whole game goes into slow-mo for like 6 solid seconds, so you can execute anybody who just saw you, like Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, that can get turned off in Metal Gear, though.
Yeah.
It's hard mode in Metal Gear.
There's a big argument that can be made for how forgiving Metal Gear Solid is, and what a positive effect it has. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean...
Talk about VR now, don't we?
Say again?
We want to talk about VR now.
Yes, we do. We do want to talk about VR. We're always talking about VR when Will is on the show.
Apparently.
He is the VR... You're not even the VR guy. You're just like the VR freeloader, man. You're just...
Oh, I see how it is.
Yeah. I'm throwing down.
Hey, I had used VR way before you had. I'm just going to
fair.
put that out there.
That's true.
Yeah.
But we do want to talk about VR a little bit. We've been talking about VR a lot this year and these recent shows, but it's a hot topic. And the reason we want to talk about it is because the HTC Vive, Steam...
Vive.
God damn it, you're starting early, aren't you?
Yeah. But yeah, HTC Vive, Steam VR.
Yeah. It got priced finally. So we've known for a while now that the Oculus Rift is $600, and now we know that the Vive, which is taking pre-orders on the 29th of February this month, will be $800, $200 more than the Rift, but it will come with the little lighthouse light box things for the room scale VR. It'll come with the touch controllers,
The two, yeah.
which are like the in-space motion controls.
The Wiimotes.
And it'll come with 2 games. It'll come with Job Simulator and Fantastic Contraption. And those are both, I believe, room scale games. So it's interesting. They've put together their package and they've said, okay, Oculus, this is what you got, and now here's what we've got. What do you guys think? Have they put up a good fight? Like,
I mean, I know you've already pre-ordered an Oculus.
I have, yeah.
I'm actually, when I read the announcement, I actually am pretty sure I'm going to get a Vive. The room scale is really what does it for me. So, you know, the Oculus comes with a tabletop sensor, so you are getting some tracking, of course. But when we were at PAX South, actually, I got to try a Vive with the 2 room sensors, and it was a very dumb little demo. But the potential there is so exciting and so cool. It'd be nice if I could try a Vive again before, you know, the pre-order. And I think that's what everybody's having the biggest trouble with. But and I'm sure Oculus is going to come up with a solution for being able to walk around your room. But I'm pumped. I want to do it. And $200, like, if I'm paying more than $500 and less than $1,000, like, we're just in the territory of shit ton of money. So, like, that $200 difference doesn't make a huge deal to me. But I don't know. Evan, what do you think?
I think it's great that we have two, like, somewhat distinct choices in terms of VR. I mean, obviously, there's a little bit of concern about, like, you know, games being tied to a single platform going forward. I think it's super important that it's easy for developers to release on both platforms just to grow the market and really just, like, so that people can iterate on the ideas within VR in terms of control schemes and, like, what type of inputs should be used for what in UI, which is, like, still, like, a big frontier for that style of game right now. I mean, yeah, $800 is a lot of money, but, you know, a lot of people have compared it to just, you know, what did the first smartphone cost? You know, what did DVD players cost when they first released Blu-ray players? Like, as, like, the first generation of, you know, VR isn't new, but this generation is certainly is. It seems fair, and I really hope that they're going to be able to aggressively, you know, streamline their manufacturing and everything like that as, you know, in the coming years, and drive that cost down to where it's closer to, you know, $500 for something like the Vive, and it's still, you know, the technology and the resolution is a little bit better even, because it's just so important that they're really going to be relying on those, like, early adopters to evangelize, because it is such a, what, you know, you have to experience it to really understand it and feel it kind of thing. But it's so powerful when you do. So, you know, with VR, it's going to be a huge struggle for them to figure out how to convince people to try this thing out. And it's like one of the greatest marketing challenges, I think, of our time in terms of technology. So I'll be really curious to see how they approach that. And Valve as well. I think it's an open question, like, what Valve's involvement is going to be going forward with the Vive. They've sort of been almost like parenting some of these independent developers to you know, build their own products. But, like, is Valve really going to step up and provide something of its own that is more than a tech demo to maybe lure a greater amount of people to this experience? Yeah.
And also, the question has been raised a couple times of when Oculus releases its touch controllers, how much are those going to cost?
Right.
Because if they cost anywhere $200 or more, then if they cost $200 for the touch controllers, then that's the same cost as the Vive, except it doesn't do room scale, right?
Right.
And of course, obviously, with the Oculus, you get the headphones and you get the Xbox One controller and you get Valkyrie and you get some other stuff like that. But it's, you know, it might get closer to even when that does actually happen. Wes said it's going to, his opinion, Wes, our hardware editor, said that he's almost sure that it's going to be at least $100, right? The Oculus touch controllers. I've seen another opinion where somebody said, I can't imagine it costs less than $200. So my gut is telling me it's going to be around $150 probably, but we'll see. You know, that's still bringing them much more in line price-wise. I'm still, though, I want to maintain, as somebody who's pre-ordered an Oculus, I'm still happy with my purchase because the way I look at it has not changed with this price, where it's Oculus has been refining the user experience for a very long time. They've been refining the user experience longer than Valve has, than Valve has, and HTC has. And when I tried on the Vive Pre and the Oculus consumer version, the Oculus CV, like the Rift CV, just melted onto my face, whereas the Vive, I could feel it pressing on my nose and stuff like that. And I think those are problems that are going to be more noticeable, at least with the first generation of VR, whereas the VR technology, although Vive's is probably going to be better technologically, it's like, it's jumping, I'm still jumping from nothing to this brand new thing, right? Whereas, so I want it to be comfortable, I want to be able to use it well, I want to have a lot of support for it first, and then when the second generation comes along and Vive has kind of figured out their usability problems, maybe I'll make the jump to that. right?
Yeah.
I don't have faith. I have faith in Oculus as a consumer company. I do not have faith in Valve as a consumer company at this point. I just don't. If their Steam support is any sort of indication, if I have a problem with the Vive, like, who am I going to call? You know, like, that sort of thing scares me.
Gaben. So the one thing I will say for the Oculus, I think the games are cooler. I think Job Simulator and Fantastic Contraption for the Vive are okay.
I think Fantastic Contraption looks sweet.
It looks really fun, and it reminds me in a way of kind of a Wii party game a little bit. They've got these great trailers of like a bunch of happy people in a living room with one person who has the headset on and they're like crawling around on the floor doing their contraption, and that looks kind of cool. Job Simulator, it's cool. It's a demo. You're not going to play it for more than a couple minutes, and it's very funny. It's like, oh, this is hilarious and funny. But it's like, okay, this is what I can do in this space. And Valkyrie might not have a lot of depth to it, but it's super fun to fly around.
Yeah.
I mean, like, even if I didn't have targets, like, it would just be fun to like chill in a fucking spaceship and look around. And because we were talking about this at PAX South that you didn't feel the immersion totally, but maybe that was in part because you were on a show floor.
Yeah, I'm sure it was because I was on a show
like,
floor.
Being able to like look, I'm gonna go away from my mic, but being able to like look around and like, oh, there's someone over there, and then like barrel roll and like I got into a total like Ender's Game, enemy gate is down zone of like, all right, we're doing this. There's the asteroid. And then. Lucky's Tale is the other game bundled with the Oculus. That also looks fun. I mean, it looks like it could be a good kind of like Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, kind of like half platformy, half adventure kind of thing.
Yeah.
Could be great.
We'll see. We'll see. And I'm excited for that too. That's the reason actually I learned to fly in Elite Dangerous was for VR. Literally, I was like, I need to fly a spaceship in VR. This was before they said that Valkyrie was going to come out for it. And I was like, I need to learn how to fly the spaceship now so that when I get into VR, I can really fly the spaceship.
So you're doing simulator training for a simulator.
Yes, exactly.
So is Elite going to be? I feel like I read somewhere that they were focusing on being tied to Vive.
No, they're
developing for both, I assume.
Yes
I assume
and
everybody's
no.
trying
I think
to.
that they like the Vive more, but they are making sure that they'll both work for both, and they'll both work for both on time. Like they're not gonna skimp on the Rift version, but I think they do like the potential of the Vive more, as a lot of developers do, because that room scale stuff is so compelling.
Right.
Let's also open it up as we finish our conversation about VR to Twitch chat Q&A. If you guys have any questions for us about VR, the Hitman beta, anything on your mind in this week in PC gaming whatsoever, tag us with @PCGamer in the Twitch chat, and we will try to grab your questions. If you're a Twitch sub, we will definitely grab your question if we can. And if you are watching on YouTube or listening on iTunes, we can't grab your questions, of course, but you are always welcome to join us, twitch.tv/PCGamer, 1 p.m. Pacific time, right here on Twitch.
And if anyone wants strategies for getting up there on your kill list for PlanetSide 2 sniper rifles, I am always available.
Strategy number 1, use the sniper rifle no one else is using.
Yeah. But you actually have to get kills with it.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the same as that Overwatch tip I was telling you about.
Oh, yeah.
Shoot people, don't get shot.
Yeah.
It's the best shooter advice. I mean, come on. Can you, in your days of CSGO, Evan, wouldn't you say that tip is like top tier?
It stands up. It's reliable. I'd say over the past couple decades, that's like one of the best things I could tell you. Yep.
Asakainen, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, asks, how long do you think VR will take to get to where it's refined? That is an interesting question of, even if you don't say just refined, of like, how long till VR is at the point where it's affordable and kind of usability is not a problem anymore and it's not pinching people's noses. I don't know. I think it's probably going to take at least 2 years. I feel like second or even third generation VR headsets are really going to be where it's like people can afford it really easily, and it's going to be really amazing for anybody who puts it on.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hobbyists. I mean, pushing this frontier, hobbyists like who are interested and are kind of doing game jammy stuff, and sort of like smaller or mid-sized developers. That's kind of what we've seen so far, and a lot of those are going to have to be directly sponsored by Facebook, by Valve, by HTC, and they don't have. I mean, they're big companies, but it sounds ridiculous. They don't have infinite money to just like, hey, like top tier game studio, like make a $300 million VR game that like a few thousand people will play.
Yeah.
Well, it's like what Cliffy B said when you guys were talking, which is 2016 is going to be the year of your rich asshole friend.
Is that me? Yeah.
Well, you've pre-ordered
Damn.
having VR,
I'm
and
not
you
rich,
go over
and
yeah, I know.
I hope I'm not an asshole.
You're not really either of those things. I don't know what your financial situation is, but you're, but it's really maybe more your obsessive and really nice friend who is scrounging every last penny just to get this system because they're so excited about it. But
Let's just put it this way. I don't think that Cliff Bleszinski would describe me as rich.
yeah, that's true.
Even in the most liberal ways of that word. So a couple other questions. Caliente Quacker asks in the same vein, do you think it's worth it to jump into VR immediately or wait? That's a good question because it kind of just comes down to you. It depends on, to me, two things. How much money you have to burn, and if you are in a position to kind of, in a sense, waste $1,000 on VR, right? Like if you're in a position where you can just like blow $1,000 on a complete luxury item, like, and you're okay with that, then yeah, consider it. But it's also just mainly how excited you are for it. I'm incredibly excited for VR. I really, really want to make a point of supporting the first generation so that later generations may succeed more. And those two things combined with the fact that I had enough money to do it made me say, yeah, I'm gonna jump into this, even though I recognize that the first generation is absolutely going to be significantly probably worse than the second.
Yeah, I mean, you liken it to a console launch or something, right? Where there's like a special excitement. I'm saying this as a PC gamer, I realize, but like there is an excitement for a lot of people that comes with like getting that PlayStation 2, in the early 2000s and getting some of the launch games and diving in there and being like one of the first people with their friends, and you get to talk to your friends about it, and they're like, oh, what's it like? And, can I come over and see it and stuff like that? Like if you have that kind of relationship with games where you're always curious and trying like the next greatest thing, I think it's one of the best moves you can make in that area if you can afford it. But yeah, like obviously in all regards, we expect this to become like a cleaner experience and a better experience and a cheaper experience in a couple years, 2 or 3 at the least.
Real quick before we take the next question, I do want to say, if you see anybody in any chat forum anywhere saying VR is dead, this is a joke or something like that, they're just flat wrong. Like, everyone can have their opinion on whether they think VR is going to succeed in the long run or not. Like, that's totally cool. But declaring that it is dead based simply on the price of the first generation of consumer models 2 months before they ship is just absurd and ignorant. I'm sorry. That just bugged me. That was my personal little, like, soapbox.
So, well, it has way too much utility as a platform to not have some popularity. I mean, just think about, like, have you guys ever looked for an apartment? Right?
Yeah.
Have you done that?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Is that like one of the most agonizing experiences of your life? Especially in the Bay Area?
Yeah, up there. Especially in San Francisco.
I have played a few matches of Dota 2, so but it's up there.
So maybe top 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about going to a concert? Do you like going to concerts?
Not with sweaty people.
Where's Evan going with this?
Yeah, I have no idea.
So like, I mean, just think about the utility of having 360-degree view, good audio, obviously live streaming with VR and that amount of data is still an issue at high resolution, but like being able to check apartments or houses in VR and just tour 10 apartments or 10 houses in like an hour beats the hell out of driving it to every one with a realtor and like getting the spiel and like, yes, you want to turn on the faucets and stuff, but like and they already have that kind of technology in real estate where they have like panoramic video and stuff like that. So that's a natural fit. But just like concerts, sporting events, and stuff like that, being able to move around and watch a replay in 360, like that's going to be spectacular.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty great.
And like big adoption of that might be like 7 years away or something, but we're already seeing Facebook and YouTube adopt 360-degree video. I mean, you can do that now with just like a spherical camera, right? People are doing it in like D&D sessions, which I think makes it like a much better experience. I've played D&D over the internet before, and I think it's terrible. But suddenly when you can look around the room and see like somebody picking up their soda can or like see somebody fumbling with their dice, it becomes like a much more natural experience that's like being there. So it just has way too much usefulness to not eventually work and be popular.
Yeah, I definitely think it'll pick up, and also porn. But but no, I think you're totally right. I mean, my biggest fear is just that it's going to take a long time to reach that point where it's affordable. And I'm sure the technology is going to get smaller too, which is exciting, and all that. I mean, I think the biggest hurdle will just be time.
Yeah, it just needs a foothold in people's minds right now, and then it'll be it'll do well. But I want to take we have 2 questions from subscribers, so I want to take those real fast before we end the show. First of all, JBJ Blaze, our sub, asks, which beta did you get into the most? The Division, Hitman, or Black Desert Online? I didn't play Black Desert Online because I'm not a huge MMO guy. But between the Division and Hitman, that's a tough choice because I wasn't crazy about either of them, but I also didn't think either of them were bad. So, like, I guess between the two, I'd rather keep playing the Division, but I was kind of like on both.
What if you could throw Overwatch
into
those?
I mean, then no contest, but
oh well.
Yeah.
I feel identically to Tom, so just repeat that.
Cool.
No.
Like, do I have to or can we just remember it? Okay. And then the other question was from our subscriber Octavian1453 asks, what do you think of the Half-Life 3 references in the Valve VR code? Because we have to get some Half-Life 3 up in here at the end. For those of you who didn't hear, Steam and Valve released a Steam VR test tool, basically, onto Steam, where it just tests your system and sees how well and if it can run VR. That's all it does. And it uses this thing that they've been kicking around for a long time, which is their Portal 2 kind of like demo VR thing, where it's just a little VR demo where it's the Portal 2 characters, and it's a silly little animation that they made when they were first showing off the Vive a long time ago. But hidden in those files, there were folders for Half-Life 3, and there were files for Left 4 Dead 3, and so there's a lot of misinformation. I don't know. So there's part of me where the conspiracy theorist is like, there have been too many Half-Life 3, like, quote-unquote leaks recently for it to be a coincidence, and maybe Valve is, like, just putting it back in people's minds to, like, get ready for an announcement of something. But I don't think that these files are indicative of anything necessarily, especially because developers have had access to this VR demo for months already. And the files have been in there for months already, so people already knew about them in a certain sense. It's just now they're public. And there's one YouTuber, I can't remember who, I think it's a Valve News Network, who actually was like, I was sent these files from Half-Life 3 back in December from a source, an anonymous source, and the source said that these are definitively Half-Life 3, the next Half-Life 3 game. Some of these things are, and that it's being developed. But the problem with that is that he might be telling the truth, but the problem with that is that since developers have had this VR demo for a long time now, if his source is a developer, not someone at Valve, it could be his source incorrectly thinking that these are directly from Half-Life 3 because they're labeled as such, and they might just be old files like what they found a while ago in a different game when Dota 2 when they moved to Source 2. So his source could be telling the truth from the source's perspective, but just wrong. So there's a lot of misinformation just of people generating hype off of Half-Life 3 out there.
Yeah, it's like a lot of levels of telephone.
Basically, I think we haven't learned anything new from the last time Half-Life 3 quote-unquote files were leaked, right?
I will say, though, that if Half-Life 3 does get announced at some point, we should get a can of orange spray paint and put a lambda just right on the wall, right behind the TF2 poster, right in the corner there.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll even do it. I'll do it on the stream.
Yeah.
It'll be great. And then for the rest of the stream, we'll be breathing in the toxic fumes.
Well, that sounds great,
Yeah.
along with the heat of this sauna.
Yeah, getting a little...
The nice thing about having Evan or Chris on a computer monitor is that they generate much less heat than 3 people in this small room.
This is actually pretty warm. Sorry.
And if you were doing that to Evan, it would just be weird.
It would be really weird.
Yeah.
Luckily, our HR person isn't in today.
Evan, you're still in Seattle. You haven't been to the new office yet, but what you'll quickly learn, as our viewers have learned when we first moved here, is that this is a hot box originally designed for torture.
It's true.
And we're gonna get you in here and you'll see for yourself firsthand. Oh God, the screwdriver's back.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's how all podcasts should be done, with like high metabolism and your blood's going. You know?
Yeah.
You don't want to do it in the cold.
Yeah, we'll have somebody from the video crew like splash us with ice water in the middle of the show if we're getting a little low energy or whatever.
Is that like a Twitch plugin we can create where there's like we create a dunk tank basically?
Oh man. Yeah, if you
Twitch
subscribe, a just giant bucket of gack dumps all over Tom's head.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good for that.
Yeah.
I'm game. If that would get people to subscribe to put me in a dunk tank, I am a sellout, man. I'll go for it. But we are out of time, so I do want to thank. We actually ran a little long today, but thank you very much for everyone for sticking around till the end and joining us on the PC Gamer Show. My name is Tom Marks, here with Will Chesney and our editor-in-chief, Evan Lottie. Thanks very much for joining us, guys. And be sure to go to twitch.tv/podcast and comment on this week's show about what you liked, what you didn't like, what you want to see, what type of quizzes you want to see, and all that good stuff. Please leave us a review on iTunes if you do listen there. It does help us out a lot. Or just follow us on Twitch or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Shameless self-promotion out the wazoo. And thank you very much, and we'll see you next week, twitch.tv/PCGamer, Tuesdays, 1 p.m. Pacific time. Goodbye.
Bye. I'm still trapped in this computer.